Good morning. We'll call the November 14th regular council meeting to order. Do we have anybody registered for the open mic? Nope. Looking for an adoption of the agenda. Councillor Nielsen, any additions or deletions?
I have an addition to go in camera, please.
Camera. For bonus points, do you know which section?
I'll make up a number if that helps me with bonus points. 17? 17. Do I get those points?
Nope. Karen does.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am Karen. Councillor Blatz.
I would like to defer my motion for 15D to the next council meeting.
Okay, so we will take that off. Anything further? Somebody want to make the motion as amended?
So moved.
Councillor Nielsen, those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 4A, approval of the minutes. Councillor Nielsen.
I move the City Council adopts the minutes as presented for the special council meeting of October 18th, 2022.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council adopts the minutes as presented for the regular council meeting of October 24th, 2022.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I would also like to move that City Council adopts the minutes as presented for the organizational meeting of October 24th, 2022.
So also moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 8, got a delegation from the Wetaskiwin Curling Club. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Robin Gerard and I am the president of the Wetaskiwin Curling Club. And I have Jamie Beefus with me. She is a board member and the chair of the opening ceremonies. We are very excited to be bringing the Sentinel Storage Alberta Scotties Tournament of Hearts to Wetaskiwin this January. It will be a 4-day event where 8 teams will be playing for the chance to get a national spot at the National Scotties Tournament of Hearts. It will take place from Wednesday, January 18th till Sunday, January 22nd. And there will be 2 draws a day. We will have entertainment on the Friday and Saturday nights. And we will be looking for volunteers and support from the city and surrounding communities to come out. We're expecting somewhere between 300 and 500 people from within the community and across the province per day to this civic arena. It will be in Arena 1, I believe is what it's called, the large arena. And they will turn that hockey ice into 4 sheets of curling ice with boxes for sponsors kind of behind and seating in the stands. So it's going to be a very exciting event. In the kind of curling community, it's a very prestigious event, but on the scale for the city, it's also a great opportunity to showcase what Wetaskiwin has to offer. We've got a beautiful facility there, and the company that's helping us put on this event has commented how perfect our facility is for this event and potentially future events that could come to the city. So we're really excited.
Hi. And I am the chair of the opening and closing ceremonies, which I have connected with Karen, both actually, unintentionally one. So originally I had sent out an email just asking to kind of save the date. It has now changed from January 19th and will now be on Wednesday, January 18th at 5 p.m. So I will send out another email to Karen Bodie. And we would love to have the mayor just welcome the city, our teams, and everybody that attends. Welcome them to Wetaskiwin at the opening ceremonies, and at the closing ceremonies, we will also be looking for dignitaries to hand out the trophies. And the closing ceremonies will be Sunday, right after the final game, and the final game is at 2 p.m. on Sunday, so I'd say roughly close, that would be about around 4-ish. So I will send out an email with the revised information to Karen later today. And we would love if all of council would attend the opening ceremonies just to represent the city of Wetaskiwin and to welcome all the visitors and teams that will be coming.
What time for the opening ceremonies?
5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 18th.
It is in my calendar.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that's it.
Any questions? Yeah, Karen?
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Thank you, Robin and Jamie. And I'm sorry I didn't recognize you when I came in. Thank you for doing this and all the work to bring it to our community. And it is a very big event and a very exciting thing for our community in general. So even though we had, because we got confused, and I thought I'd had that conversation with you when you were talking to the other Karen. But whatever you need, let me know, and I'll be there for both. I'm really happy, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to thank you, too, for what you're doing. I have a couple of questions. In the past, it's been televised, the provincial playdowns. Will they be televised this year, to your knowledge?
So curling has actually gone in a bit of a different direction now. So the main draws will be streamed online, and the semifinals and finals will be on television. So you'll actually be able to watch all draws virtually somewhere, but the last two draws, the semifinals and the finals, we believe will be on television.
And will you be having a lounge like they do at all curling bonspiels?
So very similar to like the Pinties events, there will be on ice entertainment following each draw. And then on Friday and Saturday night, we will have live music in the drill hall and an event to thank the volunteers and sponsors, and a volunteer breakfast on Sunday as well. So those would be taking place in the drill hall. But
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I just, like they have what they call the Briar Patch, right, where everybody goes and socializes after the games and stuff.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that would be in the drill hall if there was going to be any of that kind of thing?
On Friday and Saturday night, that will be in the drill hall. During the other games, that will be actually on the ice surface.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Now I know you'll be attending. Now I know you'll be attending. Yes. Anything further? No. Thanks very much for all the work you put into making sure that this came to the city. We're going to be able to do whatever we can to help you out with that, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks. I will take a motion to accept as information, please. Councillor Elliott. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. We've got a staff report for information on the Natural Learning Park.
Good morning, Council. So back on August 22nd of 2022 at our regular council meeting, Gordon Blake was there to present an idea to council about a natural learning park. So administration has met with Gordon Blake to gather more information about the natural learning park. And the vision for the natural learning park is to teach people about different plant and animal species through signage around the park. Gordon will be creating a plan and presenting it to administration in the spring of 2023. And administration has also connected Gordon with other interested community members and groups to investigate collaboration opportunities. And I guess, once administration does receive that plan from Gordon Blake, we'll review it, present a proposed plan at a future council meeting. So if there's any questions, I can answer them.
Yep, go ahead.
I move that council accepts this report as information.
Any questions? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. I have a staff report for information, facilitated discussion, summary, gaps and supports for Wetaskiwin's unhoused population.
Good morning, Council. Our administration received a motion on October the 24th to direct administration to facilitate a workshop with subject matter experts in the community, specifically on the unhoused population in regards to the gaps and potential solutions that may exist. So the report that I have in front of you here today is just to provide an update on that motion. We did hold the facilitated workshop on November 3rd with subject matter experts, again, to examine both gaps in supports to the unhoused population as well as potential solutions that might exist. We do have a summary of that report here attached for your review, and just wanted to go through and provide a few highlights from that report. So at a high level, the group found gaps in support for the unhoused population were the following. There were seven pieces that were identified. So the first was lack of accessible housing / housing first model. Second was a lack of transportation. Third was a lack of local services. Fourth was lack of outreach beyond the shelter. 5 was lack of programs, activities, or gathering spaces for the unhoused population. And 6 was lack of communication and connection between agencies and stakeholders. And then 7 others, there was a number of others, such as supporting the community, lack of understanding and empathy, lack of equitable resource allocation between urban and rural, and absent healthcare leadership from the meeting. And then when the group came together to talk about potential solutions for gaps in support, there were 2 top potential solutions that the group thought had the best or the most impact given the circumstance. First was housing, and then the second was community outreach, but other additional potential solutions included restarting the hub or engage partnerships, public transportation, providing a detox facility, providing a friendship center, increasing awareness and education, and providing advocacy for funding and resources. So the full report has been provided as attached to this report. Administration will also be circulating the full report to members of the workshop that attended. And I could take any questions that council might have.
Motion to accept as information, and then we can get into discussion if you'd like. Councillor Blatz.
I move that City Council accept the report titled Facilitated Discussion Summary, Gaps and Supports for Wetaskiwin's Unhoused Population and dated November 14, 2022 as information.
Moved by Councillor Blatz. Any discussion? Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you. An observation as opposed to a question, I guess. First off, as one of the city representatives on that workshop or working committee, it was really well done. And the reason I made the motion in the first place is I was concerned with gaps in service, but more as it related to the community. And partly because I think of the makeup of the committee, it really focused on the gaps for the homeless. And as a subset of that came, how do we support the community as a lower priority, and And again, with the committee makeup, I understand where that hit the mark. But one of the top easiest to get started was a mobile unit outreach that would facilitate supports both for the homeless as well as the community in addressing some of the things I spoke about earlier. So I guess my question now through the chair to Paul would be your reaction to the easiest to get started outreach mobile unit. Where would you see the city's role, or do you see the city's role in that conversation?
Through the Mayor to Councillor Nielsen, there's the only formal mechanism we would have to have that we currently have, or that we're currently working on to continue these types of conversations would be through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Strategy. That's a strategy being administered by the RCMP, and is expected to be broader and looking at not just policing, but these sorts of things like supports to our unhoused population. That strategy is very much in its infancy, and as it starts to get developed and becomes a bit more mature, I would expect that through those tables that these types of conversations would continue. To your question directly about the mobile unit and what's our administration's role, we don't have a formal role, nor do we have any staff that are currently supporting the unhoused population, and so it would have to come through motion of council.
Thank you. Then if I may continue. So then, through the chair to Sue, my initial concern, I guess, was in dealing with garbage, graffiti, those kinds of things. And at the time, I asked if there was a plan in place, and you indicated you'd have to go back and do some reflection and discussion with SLT. Because those issues are still prevalent in our community. How would you anticipate addressing the issues related to garbage and graffiti and unattended personal items belonging to the homeless?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, as far as the graffiti goes, we're kind of limited with the cold weather, so we wouldn't really have a plan for that over the winter. And the garbage, we would need to look, I've had the discussion with council before about areas where we have excessive garbage cans or underutilized garbage cans, and if we could repurpose those to the other areas, that would help us. Otherwise, we would need to come back and ask for additional resources. They're pretty strapped right now with the number of garbage cans that they have to get to each week.
So if we are putting out more garbage cans, then there'd be a request for more money to provide the service.
Correct.
So how do we move forward with that?
A motion. I think the first step would be for Kathy's team to fully identify, like we did a quick review of which ones are not being fully utilized, truly identifying which ones are underutilized, and then making a report back to council. Do we just remove those ones and put them somewhere else? Or does it make more sense to get a term employee to come help for the winter?
Okay. And in relation to issues like panhandling and public intoxication, public urination, defecation, we have input into the policing plan. When will our next opportunity be for that kind of conversation?
I believe in the spring, but those are also bylaw issues, so Paul could speak with his team about enforcement of those bylaws. And I think now that there is a shelter, bylaw has a lot more ability to enforce some of those bylaws more aggressively.
So is that just a conversation that then admin will have with their leadership team, or do you need a motion for greater attention to enforcement?
No, I think,
Through the Mayor, to Councillor Nielsen, on December 12th, administration is bringing a service level of service inventory to Committee of the Whole for feedback from the committee on whether or not you want to see any levels of increased service or decreased of service for bylaw enforcement specifically. And so that will be coming on December the 12th with an opportunity to understand exactly what is our level of service and whether or not you want that increased or not, or decreased. And then from there we can, we are looking to bring that back. So that will be that will be your first level of input into those service levels. And then in into the winter, we'll bring that back for approval so that it's actually something that we're being held accountable to.
Thank you. So can I make a motion, or do I have to?
We have a motion on the floor, so once that's done, you can.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and we're in Committee of the Whole, so
Yeah.
we would come out and it can be part of new business.
Yeah.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further to what Councillor Nielsen's talking about, Councillor Aberley and myself were at this session as well. We had an outstanding facilitator, which really brought a lot of good ideas from the group. In the last little while, the mayor and I were at the community justice discussions with the provincial government, and then I was at a wellness and safety task force meeting with the RCMP and other community stakeholders. And then there's our interagency in Wetaskiwin. We get all these people together a number of different times. We get all the stakeholders. I don't like the word stakeholders, but we get all the people who are involved in social services and helping people. We get them together, and every time we get together, they say there are gaps. We need to get everybody together to solve these problems. And then we go away, and the gaps exist, and then we have another meeting, and we learn about the gaps again. And we've been doing this gaps for about 14 years that I can remember, and the gaps have never been filled. And I find it really frustrating that somehow we should have a one-stop shop, that people can come, get all any kind of service they need, whether it be medical, psychological, addiction, whatever, that they would be able to have somebody who could earmark the resources to which they could go. And I'm just expressing my frustration, but the RCMP are supposed to be coming up with this task force within a year. There'll be a report from the task force on wellness and safety. Community justice is supposed to come back to us, and we're also working with this wellness group. So I just would really like to see something actually come out of this rather than us sitting down and sharing wonderful ideas. And the ideas are great. And most of them require dollars. And we don't have access to those dollars because a lot of them are provincially funded. But anyway, I would just like to see some progress made down the road, because it seems to me discussions have gone on for a long time. Thank you.
Councillor Aberley.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Through the chair to council, there was just things, if we look onto page 9 under the decisional level, and I just wanted to highlight that I second everything, or third everything that both councillors Nielsen and Elliott have said. But by the end of the day, I think part of the closing reflection to me that really just sat with me is the nice to see everyone's face at a table. And lots of discussions had happened during COVID when we were meeting virtually and having the group come together. And I think seeing everybody's face at the table really helped that sense of community for the community itself. And I don't believe that anybody was sitting there only thinking of one population. And Councillor Nielsen and I have had a little bit more of a discussion afterwards, because it really is a hub not just for the homeless or houseless population that we have, but also creating this community for the businesses and the other services in the community that's out there. So I think taking away the community outreach services, what we can get from that, and I suspect we're going to have this conversation more outside of the committee of the whole, but it really was a good day to look at a larger picture. So thank you.
Anything further? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 9, Santa Claus Parade Road Closure. Good morning.
Good morning. So through the chair to council, we are seeking approval, council's approval, to have the closure of Main Street on November 25th from 5:30 to 7:30 for the Santa Claus Parade. It's the annual event. I believe it's been held each year with the exception of 2020 due to COVID.
Councillor Nielsen.
I would see council approves the road closure request as per the report titled Santa Claus Parade Road Closure dated November 14, 2022 for the annual Santa Claus Parade.
The dated part in there should be the 25th, or is it just because that's today?
It was just as dated for this report. You want a date for the actual road closure?
Yep.
With the road closure being on November 25th.
All right, moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Councillor Aberley.
Thank you.
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I am so excited. I don't know what it is with me. I used to hate Christmas right up until like 5 years ago. And especially during COVID, the Santa Claus Parade has actually been a time that kind of brought so much positivity into my life during these times. And so I just wanted to say that I'm super excited for this again.
And how fitting that you're wearing green. being the Grinch. Oh. You came to love Christmas. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a general question, but what other activities? There's a light up at City Hall.
Are you asking me or telling me?
I'm asking. That's why I said question.
That's all the time we have for Councillor Elliott.
Are there any other activities planned for that evening? And I say it's a general question.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, with the CEC being all but disbanded, the light up just happens now, so staff will turn the lights on. But there's no other events that are planned that night except for the parade.
Councillor Aberley.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. I do know that I can say there are other community events already being planned around that evening. So the Legion will have, it has every year, a dance that follows it, but also the Cadets Cookie Walk is for sure happening that night. So I just wanted that out there because I'm really sad actually because I'm not here, but I'm not that sad because I'm on holidays. But I'm sad I'm missing the Cookie Walk too, so.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. I won't be on holidays. Mr. Mayor, we used to have a Midnight Madness as well that coincided with that because we had the people downtown anyway, and then the stores would stay open till 9 o'clock or something, but we did call it Midnight Madness. I think that that's something that somehow should be looked into with our business community, especially prior to Christmas. We're trying to get people to shop locally, and it's the end of the month, so maybe they even have a paycheck that came in, but just maybe we could do that. That actually happens to be Black Friday as well, so just something to think about. Thank you.
Are you volunteering to organize that? Okay. Anything further? Motion on the floor is to close Main Street on November 25th from 5:30 to 7:30 for the firefighter Santa Claus parade. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item 9B, tax sale acquisitions.
Good morning. The purpose of this requisition or referral is to ask council to consider what should happen next to the properties that were offered for tax sale at the public auction that were not sold. There were 16 properties that were offered. All 16 did not sell at auction, so it does leave you with a couple of options in terms of what the municipality can do with those properties. First of all, the first option is tax forfeiture title. The municipality does not purchase the property, but registers a tax forfeiture instrument. This allows the municipality to rent, license, lease, or dispose of the property in an effort to recoup the arrears of taxes. If the property is not disposed of, the municipality may, after 15 years, obtain the certificate of title. If the tax arrears in respect of a property are paid after the municipality acquires the title to the property, the tax forfeiture title, but before selling the property, the municipality must notify the registrar to revive the title of the original owner. The second option would be clear title. After the municipality has acquired the tax forfeiture title, the municipality can acquire the property by depositing an amount equal to the reserve bid, which is the market value, into a separate account. The municipality would own the property. You could do nothing. Taxes continue to accrue and remain on the municipality's books as a growing liability. The municipality cannot dispose of the property or rent, license, or lease it. The option does not allow the property to revert to the municipality after the 15-year time period. However, we could still continue with collection processes with the homeowner or the property owner. Administration recommends registering a tax forfeiture instrument for these properties, as it will allow the city to rent, license, lease, or dispose of the property while still allowing for the ratepayer to be able to revive their title by making the payment of the tax arrears. The following 16 properties were the lists that were not sold. I just would like to make a note in that my finger's clearly on the bottom, third and fourth from the bottom. The plan should read 1222762, block 11, lot 18, and same for lot 17. My apologies, it should be instead of a 0, a 2 on those. The Municipal Government Act outlines that the tax recovery property related to land is part of Division 8 in that. So we are required to follow those processes when we're looking at what we're going to be doing with this property, and it protects the municipality in collecting our outstanding taxes, and it also protects the property owners. So at this point, the property taxes that are outstanding are approximately over $500,000 on these properties, 2 of them of which make up about $250,000 of that. There are 8 vacant residential, 2 commercial improved, and 6 residential improved properties on there. So we do have some homeowners that we are having to work with that either that live on the property or have someone else living in their home. One of the commercial improved has came in and paid the afternoon of the tax sale a large portion, is aware that if we do a municipal acquisition, they are aware that if they continue to pay, that the title will revert back to them. This also allows us some time before we sell that where we could bring it back if there is not any willingness on behalf of the ratepayer to pay the taxes, where we can recommend selling, or that we can continue to work with them over the next few months to have them pay. So some of them have indicated that they would still like to do that, just we're not in a position to do that. I'll leave it with you if there's any questions.
Councillor Billingsley.
I move that City Council request administration to proceed with the municipal acquisition of the 16 properties not sold at the public auction by registering a tax forfeiture instrument with Alberta land titles.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. If this is approved, and if any, sorry, my question is to Barb through the chair. So if this is approved, I'm trying to word this properly. So will anybody who's conducting business today at that location, do they conduct business as usual starting tomorrow? Does that make sense?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we could continue to allow them to operate their business from there, especially if it's someone who's renting. We would just we would attempt to collect the rents from that property, which has always been one of the things that we could do. One of those commercial improved properties is one that has made now payment arrangements, so we would continue to work with those payment arrangements with that business.
Thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
Through the chair to Barb, pardon me. It will allow the city to rent, lease, license, or dispose of the property. So, and then you just talked about collecting the rent. So if someone is renting the facility now, we can claim that rent?
Yes, that's correct, we can. That has always been a component of our collection process. The legislation allows us to collect the rents to go towards the outstanding property taxes.
And if the building is empty, we can lease that property ourselves?
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Barb. Barb, just to clarify, we have a payment plan, so if people are in arrears, they can make arrangements with the city to pay it off, so we're not being the really bad, evil person. We're trying to help them, correct?
That's correct. Actually, out of the 130 to 160 that went on tax notification last year, only 16 of them have gone up for tax sale. A majority of those have paid off in full or made payment arrangements. Out of these 16, one has made a formal payment arrangement now and paid off a substantial portion of that, and the others have not formalized that, but have indicated that they would be interested now, of course, recognizing the severity of it.
Okay. So further, when it says that we can dispose of said properties, can they be sold for taxes, or do they have to go at market value?
Thank you. The legislation does indicate that we have to offer them as fair to market value as possible, and that's in fairness to the person whose property that it was, because they would have a right to obtain any surplus proceeds from what we have. We would collect our taxes and any portion, and then there's a distribution component. So the Crown would get their portion next if there was anything outstanding to the Crown, and mortgage companies, things of that nature, can make application towards any surplus of proceeds.
And one last question. So we are administering the lease or the rent. We're collecting either. Do we charge an admin fee for that as well, for the time and service that the city is providing?
Yes, we can. Under the legislation, it's a 5% admin fee.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And so when or if we take over the property, any costs associated with that, does that get added to the outside? So like utilities, if we now have an empty warehouse, we're paying utilities on that. Is that something that gets added to the cost that goes back to the owner?
That's correct. It actually goes towards the outstanding taxes. Any cost that we incur towards either obtaining the property or in administering the care of that property would go towards those outstanding property taxes, which in turn would be paid by the ratepayer if they were going to be taking it back.
Right. And right now we have about $500,000 in outstanding. What did we start off with when we started this whole process for total outstanding?
I believe it was over 1.3 million. And then in the same token, if people choose then not to pay, then we would come back to council with a recommendation that the properties be disposed of or marketed.
And any of these taxes that have been collected, so that $800,000 that we've collected, has that just gone back into general revenue, or where does that go?
It goes back against the accounts receivable for the property taxes.
Perfect. Anything further? So, motion is to proceed with the municipal acquisition of the 16 properties not sold at the public auction by registering a tax forfeiture instrument with Alberta land titles. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 9C, Auditor Award.
This one is to appoint for the financial audit services provided for the City of Wetaskiwin. Based on service levels and a recent review of the RFP process, administration is recommending that City Council appoint the Matrix Group LLP as auditors for the City of Wetaskiwin for a 3-year period with the opportunity for a 2-year extension. The city budgets annually for the audit services, and the current recommendation is within the allotted budget. In order to meet legislative timelines, Finance would like to schedule an interim audit for December of 2022 and establish deadlines for the final audit with a presentation of the financial statements no later than April 21st of 2023. And this recommendation is also consistent with the tendering laws and our internal policies. And the Finance Department determines the audit requirements and commences work on the year-end process in November and December of each year normally. Now it will be good to have someone that comes in and starts the interim audit process for us in December. Any questions?
Councillor Billingsley.
I move that City Council appoint Matrix Group LLP for audit services for the years 2022 to 2024 with the opportunity for a 2-year extension.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Motion is to appoint Metrics Group LLP for audited services for the years 2022 to 2024 with the opportunity for a 2-year extension. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 9D, Council Remuneration and Expense Policy CO-002.
Good morning, Council. Council last saw this at the organizational meeting on October 24th. And since then, Council made a decision during budget deliberations to remove the Deputy Mayor remuneration from this policy. So when we go to make the motion, I'll just ask that Council just approve with the following amendments. And other than that, if there's anything else that you'd like to discuss, you're welcome to do that now. And I can go through the amendments if you'd like.
No, that's fine.
That's okay.
Councillor Lonsdale.
I move that City Council approves CO-002 Council Remuneration and Expense Policy as presented.
With the amendment.
Also with as amended.
Yeah, thank you. So the first one is the removal of the Deputy Mayor remuneration. I can move that over. So that would mean Appendix A, we would be removing this line.
Correct. Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. My only question is the per diem for incidentals at $15 a day. What would that be for?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, so those would be if you're away and let's say your laptop charger broke and you needed to go and buy a new one, so you could put that towards your incidentals. This is typical for other municipalities for their council remuneration policies, and so that's why it was included.
I don't think you're going to find a laptop charger for $15.
I could come up with other ideas, but,
But-
I'm thinking for you, I was thinking for you, Councillor Billingsley. What could be? I could get creative, but I won't.
I'm just wondering, does that even really need to be in there? Because if it is something that is city related, you would expense that back to, I don't.
Sue?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, staff have the same compensation in our policy, and a lot of times it's a razor or toothpaste or something small that you forgot to bring with you. We very rarely use it, but it's there in case you need it.
I think if you forgot your toothbrush or your toothpaste, that's a you problem.
That's, I agree. That was going to be my argument. 15 would not be enough.
Are you proposing we take that out?
I'd like to make that amendment that the per diem incidentals be removed.
To the chair, would you like to vote on each amendment?
Yep. Councillor Elliott.
So if I have, thank you, Mr. Mayor, if I have questions that aren't related to these two amendments, do I ask them now and they might become an amendment, or?
Sure. We'll get a list of what we think should be included or taken away, and then we'll go through them one by one.
Okay, thank you. I sent a couple of questions in. On page 4 of 7, under council members' responsibilities, I was wondering what the difference was between numbers 2 and 3. Number 2 says, submit a council members' responsibilities, submit a completed mayor and council expense claim to the CAO accompanied by all necessary receipts and/or documentation. The second one says council members' expenses, with the exception of the mayor, will be approved by the mayor or the deputy mayor in the mayor's absence before submission to CAO. So number 2 says we submit a completed mayor and council expense claim. So that's after you approve it, then it goes to the CAO. Is that what that's saying?
Part of the discussion on that is that making sure that any of council's claims were fitting within the policy. So I think it's probably the old way that we did it was sent to the mayor for approval, or the mayor to the deputy mayor for approval. But now we're including sending it to the CAO so that they can confirm that anything that is per diemable falls within our policy, so that it's not left to a staff or a member of finance to have to make that decision.
Okay, then those might be wise to reverse those two then, because then it's
To the CAO and then to the mayor or deputy mayor for
to the mayor and
approval.
then to the CAO, right? Okay. The other thing about conferences, it says that we approve major conferences out of province. I would suggest that it just be all out of province travel, that council would, who's to determine what major is. And I know the FCM is a major conference, but I'm just thinking that maybe it should just, council approves all out of province travel. And then my last question is, I still am not clear on how to get approval for conferences. Like, I got approval to go to that diverse communities conference next week, but how do councillors who wish to go to a conference down the road, do they bring it in as a motion each time now?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that was the way that it was done before as well. You needed 2/3
Okay.
council to approve that.
Is that defined somewhere, though?
It is.
If it is, that's fine, but I was thinking if it's not, then when we're talking about approval of out-of-province travel, we have, and conferences or something to that effect, in-province conferences or something like that. Thank you.
Can I answer that? Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Elliott. So that is on, you can find that under per diems 1H, and I can slide that over. So any other event, meeting, or training in which members of council has received approval in writing from 2/3 of all council members, and which drives the goals of the city of Wetaskiwin forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Nielsen.
Thanks. I'm just looking for some clarification on per diems 1E, where we've struck meeting with other municipal councils and changed it to government officials. And what conjures in my head when we talk about government, I'm thinking provincial and federal. Does it include other municipal? So it's any
order of government.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, would I be making an amendment when I say remove major from the conferences?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had it down as just to change the out-of-province one.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Blatz. Make sure your mic's on.
First time. I was good at this.
It's contagious.
So I'm on page 6 of 7, and in 3 it says council members will receive a daily allowance for incidentals as set out in Appendix A. I guess we can kind of get rid of that since we're getting rid of the incidentals.
Through the chair to Councillor Blatz, yes, if that amendment is approved, then we'll remove that as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does anybody, thank you, Mr. Mayor, does anybody from council, including yourself, have a credit card?
I have one.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh. Would you like one?
Okay, I've got 3 amendments. The deputy mayor pay, any discussion on that? So we are voting to remove that from the council remuneration policy. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. The next one is the $15 a day incidental. The motion is to remove that from the council remuneration policy. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. And changing the line of any major conference to any out of province travel needs council's approval, 2/3. Any discussion on that? Councillor Blatz.
Got a quick question on this. Just because, just because of how it's worded, it kind of bugs me a little bit. Just because, since I go to Ottawa every 2 months, does that mean that I would have to come to council every single time that I go to Ottawa for GMF?
But council isn't paying for your...
Yeah, so that's what I mean, is that we didn't specify in that statement that it's out-of-province travel that we're paying for. It's just that we need approval for out-of-province travel.
So I need to come to you every time I go on holidays?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, is it's just kind of confusing with the language, so.
What page, what number?
That was on page 4. Under conference, line 1.
I think any of this is to do with council remuneration.
Okay.
So
So it should be
it's anything that the city is paying for.
Okay.
So No.
Cool, thank you.
Councillor Billingsley. Mike?
Thank you. I guess I'm concerned, to the chair, to council. I'm concerned about the spirit of this is, it talks about travel to conferences out of province. So if I chose to do a in-province conference, I would not need to come to council for that?
No, you would. It's, Councillor Elliott had asked about that, so you still need 2/3.
For any conference?
Yeah.
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, so that was the one I spoke to earlier with the, if it's training, so any other event, meeting, or training in which the members of council has received approval in writing for 2/3.
And that's where I'm confused, because you've got to approve it there, but then why do you need this at all? If you've got any one that conference that council is paying for, whether it's in Alberta or in anywhere else in the world, we'd still have to approve it. Now you're...
Because you would pay mileage on anything in the province as well, right? So can that be covered on the same one? Any conference, training, convention needs 2/3 approval by council, and it doesn't matter whether you're within the province or not. And then that covers those expenses without having two separate lines.
So we wouldn't need number one?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, I think what I might do, or I can put the suggestion out, is to remove the conference one, the out-of-province travel, and just move it to a different spot. To include that up by H, and include that we would need, sorry, let me think about this for a second. To move that up so that the out-of-province travel is still captured in the policy. So even though we're doing it anyways, I think it's important to capture that. Sorry. So that would be updating this section to include this, minus a couple words. I can fix that. I just need a minute to write that out.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, like, so in 1H where it says any other event, can it just all be on one point? So any conference, event, meeting, or training, which the member of council has received approval in writing, that would also include conferences, conventions, your out of province travel, because there would still be travel expenses if you were traveling within the city, or within the province, sorry. Just all under one line?
To the chair, I think that would be fair.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I said yes, Councillor Billingsley. I apologize for saying yes for you.
Anything further? To this amendment on the out-of-province travel being included with any other event, meeting, or training. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Back to the original motion as amended. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Blatz. Any further discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. 11, bylaws. Bylaw 2020-22, water and wastewater bylaw.
Mr. Mayor, I sent a question asking if I was in attendance for first reading, because if I wasn't in attendance for first reading, I can't vote on second and third reading.
When was first reading?
And I'm not sure if I was here at that time. I don't.
It was on September 12th.
September. I was not here on September 12th. So I just don't vote on, so how is that recorded?
You missed first reading, so you don't get second or third.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
The water and wastewater bylaw was presented previously to council and vetted through our lawyers one more time. I forgot to keep the track changes on, but if you look at page 29 of 67 of the bylaw, under requirement to connect to the water system, anybody adjacent to, and this is the same in the wastewater system, item 2.1, any property adjacent to the water system must connect to the water system on or before a date set by the Peace Hills Utilities Manager. So what this means is, as soon as water or wastewater is available in a neighborhood, we would set a date, and then the homeowners have to connect by that date. It's up to them to pay for and make that connection. So we wanted to highlight that. One of the concerns that we have is we know we have, I believe, half a dozen wells that are still in the community, and so we didn't want to force those people to have to hook up to our water system until such time as Peace Hills Utilities mandates that happens. So that was one big change. On page 49 of 67, the interceptors, in part 2, interceptors and pretreatment, I just wanted to make you aware, we have most properties where there's restaurants, we have issues with grease. So we've put in here that any new ones have to have what we call OGIs, or oil and grit interceptors, within the property. So that's going to be handled through development when a permit is issued. But we would also be able to come back if Peace Hills decided, or the city decided, that the work required to keep cleaning the lines around these places was too much, and we could force them to do this work. Page 51 of 67, just want to highlight the dental separators. Again, these are all standard things that should be in bylaws that were not in our previous bylaws. So there are there's some work that we would have to do with our dental office in town to make sure that they're compliant with the bylaw. I believe everything else was exactly the same as the previous submission. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'll entertain a motion. Councillor Onsdale.
I move that City Council approve second reading of Bylaw 2020-22, cited the Water and Wastewater Bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any discussion? Councillor Nielsen.
Through the chair to Sue, the requirement to connect to the water system. So people who are on wells right now did so because they didn't have access to a water line. Is that?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, I don't know why we allowed them to stay on wells when the water line came through. I'm not sure, but we've chosen not to force them. What we did instead was create a different wastewater rate for them. So because we can't track how much water they're using, they get charged double the flat fee for their wastewater.
And the cost to connect would be what?
Could be, it depends on a number of factors, but it's typically around $15,000.
And is that a one-time connect fee, or can they amortize that over time?
It's currently a one-time. Council could look at a bylaw similar to the lead bylaw where you allow them to pay it over time.
And this bylaw says if the owners fail to take the required steps, PHU may enter the property in question and at the owner's sole expense take any and all steps that PHU considers necessary to connect that property. But if the person does not have the means to pay for it, what then?
That would be, well, again, the board of directors would make a decision in consultation with council on how to make that happen. The bylaw is written to protect future development, enforcing the connections.
Not existing?
Not, yeah, we're trying to, and that's why we were really vague. We were trying to decide on a date. Usually it's within a specific 1 year, 2 year of putting the line in, but we didn't want to have to force the existing ones, and so that's why we said at a date set by the Peace Hills Utilities Manager.
So there's no intention that people currently on wells have to connect?
Unless Peace Hills Utilities Manager gives notice that they must connect, and then there would be a deadline set, which is typically 1 to 2 years.
But this guards against future development.
Correct. And as you know, Peace Hills Manager would never be able to make that direction without the Board of Directors' approval, and then subsequently talking to council.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, am I allowed to ask a question even if I can't vote?
I'm waiting to get a thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm not sure.
I'm not either.
I will have to double check with the city manager. I was just reading through our bylaw and I haven't been able to find it yet.
You could whisper it to Councillor Billingsley.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, I believe you can ask questions.
Thank you. My question was, it seems to me that most of the wells that we had in the city were at the airport and in the airport area. So are all the people at the airport now on water?
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, there are some actually in town. I believe there's one on 56th Ave. There's a few sprinkled throughout town. We do have water and a low-pressure wastewater line out in that area, but at the time they were not forced to hook up, so there's the option for them to hook up out there, but because it wasn't forced when the line was put in, we have not wanted to take that on right now.
Councillor Lonsdale.
Thank you, sir. Through the chair to Sue. Following up with hookups for existing places that were just are okay for right now and moving into new buildings. When we get into the separators, is that going to be the thing too, or everybody that's in business right now is going to have to coincide with that?
Through the chair to Councillor Lonsdale, it's for sure a requirement of new business, and that if any permits came into planning and development for major renovations or rehabilitation of their site, they would be required to put one in.
Thank you.
Anything further? For approval on second reading of bylaw 2020-22, cited the water and wastewater bylaw. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. 11B 2021-22, council procedural bylaw approval.
So this report is to receive 3 readings, or do all 3 readings of the council procedural bylaw today. Council last saw this at the organizational meeting on October 24th. There have been no changes to this since that meeting. So they've been outlined in the attachment, and if you have any questions, I can answer them for you.
For a motion for first reading, Councillor Aberley.
Thank you, sir. I move that City Council gives first reading to the Council Procedural Bylaw 2021-22.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Discussion. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives second reading to the Council Procedural Bylaw 2021-22.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading to the Council Procedural Bylaw 2021-22.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I move that City Council gives third and final reading to the Council Procedural Bylaw 2021-22.
Moved by Councillor Aberle. Any discussion? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 11C, 2022-22, Council Boards and Committee Bylaw approval.
The report is the same for this as well. So this is Council Boards and Committees Bylaw, looking for all 3 readings, and Council last saw this at the October 24th organizational meeting as well. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that City Council gives first reading to the Council Boards and Committees Bylaw 2022-22.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? Councillor Elliott.
I have a couple of questions on page 3 of 7, 6.2. It says, all committee chairs shall provide council with a report of activities at least once annually. As part of our remuneration policy, we have to report on our committee activities. And I'm not sure how that 6.2, we're not always a chair on the committee. So I'm not sure which committee, are we talking about just our committees or all committees? The chair has to report to council.
I would say the way it is written, that all committee chairs would provide a report to council, whether a member of council is the chair or somebody else is the chair, they would still need to provide a report to council.
Okay. And
Can I
sure.
follow up on that? I guess I'm looking at the WALA board. So we are mandating to an outside individual that they must give us,
They provide reports anyways, don't they?
do they? An annual report?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, yes. And when I receive those, I forward the annual report and the minutes of each WALA is sent out to council once I receive them. I can send you I do have the emails I can forward to you.
Thank you.
And 8.6 is council may for any reason it considers sufficient remove a member at large of a committee by resolution. Does this cover council members as well? Is there something in policy that says council members can be removed by resolution as well?
I think that would have to happen at our org meeting. I don't know that you can mid-season. Go ahead. Yeah.
Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, it's, at the organizational meeting, or there is an opportunity through code of conduct, through sanctions, and or at the request of the councillor, if they're no longer able to attend, they could approach council.
Okay, so this would only apply to members that we've appointed then. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Blatz.
Thank you. I'm on page 4 under 9, and it's 9.5. It says councillors appointed to a committee shall be appointed for a 2-year term. However, council may in its discretion appoint a councillor for an additional 1-year term. So I'm just wondering, because we only appoint councillors for 1-year terms and then we do our organizational meetings every year. So I'm just thinking that the wording must be inaccurate on that part.
Through the chair to Councillor Blatz, could you let me know which part of that sentence you feel is inaccurate?
Just where it says shall be appointed for a 2-year term.
Because during our organizational meeting,
Every year.
yeah,
Okay.
there's a potential for them to not be on that. It isn't a given that they're on there for 2 years, and it could be that they're on there for more than the 3.
Okay, so is the ask then to remove the whole section?
I guess so, because like for councillors appointed to a committee, it should be appointed on an annual basis at the organizational meeting.
Right, so I made notes in the minutes to remove section 9.5 from the bylaw.
Awesome, thank you.
Councillor Averly.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Through the chair to council, I believe the spirit of 9.5 is if you are looking in general at nonprofit societies or nonprofit boards, they have terms for their board members to keep them turned over. So I think that that was what was meant in there, right? Is that a councillor could only be on that board for 2 years with a possible extension of 1 year, so a total 3-year term. I think that was meant to be the original spirit.
Yep.
So if we want to ignore that, then yeah, it would just be, I'd say remove it.
Because we voted on it during our organizational meeting, I think that council has the opportunity to make sure that that happens if that's the will of council. But I understand absolutely the terms. Anything else? So we will vote on that one amendment to remove 9.5. Any further discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything else in the bylaw? Motion is for first reading. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that City Council give second reading to the Council Code of Conduct. Whoops. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So excited. I move that City Council give second reading to the Council Boards and Committees Bylaw 2022-22.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that City Council gives unanimous consent to move to the third reading of the Council Boards and Committees Bylaw 2022-22.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I move that Council gives third and final reading to the Council Boards and Committees Bylaw 2022-22.
Moved by Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 11D, 2023-22, Council Code of Conduct, Bylaw approval.
Council last saw the Council Code of Conduct bylaw at the October 24th organizational meeting. There were no other amendments since those discussions.
I promise you this doesn't change, that every time that we get a report, we need a motion.
I've talked a lot.
Councillor Averly.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. I move that, I'm making sure I'm reading the right one, sorry. I move that City Council gives first reading to the Council Code of Conduct Bylaw 2023-22.
Moved by Councillor Averly. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives second reading to the Council Code of, I'm sorry, with these glasses, I'm not seeing it. I move that City Council gives second reading to the Council Code of Conduct Bylaw 2023-22.
Moved by Councillor Averly. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading to the Council Code of Conduct Bylaw 2023-22.
Moved by Councillor Averly. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
And I move that City Council gives third and final reading to the Council Code of Conduct Bylaw 2023-22.
Moved by Councillor Averly. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 11E, 2024-22, Committee Member Code of Conduct Bylaw Approval.
So this one is the Committee Code of Conduct bylaw, last seen at the October 24th organizational meeting, and there were no amendments since that meeting.
Councillor Lonsdale.
I move that City Council gives first reading to the Committee Code of Conduct Bylaw 2024-22.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council give second reading to the Committee Code of Conduct Bylaw 2024-22.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives unanimous consent to move to third reading of the Committee Code of Conduct Bylaw 2024-22.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives third and final reading to the Committee Code of Conduct Bylaw 2024-22.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any discussion? Councillor Aberle.
I apologize. I have no question.
Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 11F, 2025-22, City Manager Bylaw Approval.
And here we have the city manager bylaw. Once again, started the October 25th organizational meeting, and there were no changes. And I do have one addition I'd like to make is after we have done all of the bylaw approvals, I will be printing each of these for council's review and for signature as well. So you'll see a copy of each, and I will circulate that to everyone within the week.
Wonderful. Councillor Billingsley.
I move that City Council gives first reading to City Manager Bylaw 2025-22.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives second reading to City Manager Bylaw 2025-22.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives unanimous consent to move to the third reading of City Manager Bylaw 2025-22.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council gives third and final reading to City Manager Bylaw 2025-22.
Moved by Councillor Billingsley. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 14, in camera. Looking for a motion to go in camera. Councillor Platts. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
What a stupid conversation that was. Eh?
Welcome back. Looking for a motion to come out of camera. Councillor Blatz, those in favor? Carried unanimously. New business, airport expression of interest, update.
Good morning, Council. So this is just an update for the airport operations expression of interest that was done earlier this year. We did receive one full submission, and we determined that there would be minimal cost savings at this time for outsourcing operations. The city would still remain as the accountable executive and also be accountable for all finances.
Looking for a motion to accept this information, and then I will open the floor up to discussion. Councillor Nielsen.
I move the City Council accepts the airport expression of interest update as information.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a general question. I'm just wondering, would there be any aviation-related companies that would want to join us as a partner or something like that, that might want some sort of daily scheduled event flights? I know they have to be a certain weight. They can't be too heavy because of our runway, but I just wonder if we could get somebody to help us. And I'm not expecting you to answer, Kathy, but it would be nice if like even an avgas company or something like that would come on board and say, we'd like to help you out to keep this airport viable. And I mean, we could rename the airport if they would give us enough money. Manluck Airport, I don't know.
What you're saying is everything is for sale.
Well, no, not everything, though. I'm being careful. Thank you.
Elliott Airport.
Yeah.
I was thinking more local.
Anything further? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. I have two notice of motions so far. Urban Chickens. Councillor Aberley.
Thank you, sir. I move that City Council directs administration to research and present options for Council's consideration regarding an urban chicken program to be brought back to the February 13th, 2023 regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Aberley. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Gandam. Through the chair to council, I will admit I have not personally made up my mind about whether I'm in favor of an urban chicken program altogether. I have met with some people, I've done some reading myself. The reason, and I would like to take an approach to it where I'm seeing both sides. It is a growing urban program. It is something that many communities in our province as well as nationwide are starting to do. And some of my initial hesitations that I had towards it as I started to look into the program, for example, that Edmonton has there's both a minimum requirement for the chickens themselves because they're social animals as well as maximum requirements, and the amount of money that it would take an individual to put into it. So to have these chickens, I would like at this point for us to make a decision, a well-rounded decision as to whether or not this is something we will look at because it continues to come back to previous councils as I was going over and over again. So thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. My question is to administration through the chair. This was brought to us 2 years ago, I'm thinking, or thereabouts. Would this research be any new data or anything new that hadn't been presented to us 2 years ago?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, possibly. I think the program has evolved since then. But I don't know that the challenges in our communities have changed, has changed enough for council to change their opinion on it, but we could do the research.
And to follow up then, research, is this going to take a lot of time, staff time?
It could. I was just jotting down some notes too. I mean, one of the options within the bylaw as well is for council to make a motion to get an estimate on how much time this would take before you send us on our way. So we could do that task first if council wishes.
So would that be amendment to, because I have concerns too, that I would like more information if it's going to be new relevant information. If it's rehashing this, then why spend the dollars and all of that kind of doing the research? So what amendment would you, well, if it's tabled, no.
Still not giving direction to get
No,
that
it's
information
not.
back. Do you have an option for an amendment?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I just thought,
thinking of an
while he's
amendment.
pondering, I'd blabber and give him time.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to support the notice of motion for a number of reasons. One is we've asked administration previously to do some homework, and they did, and the end decision was not to support it. But we've also had reports from Bylaw indicating how much time they're currently spending dealing with animal control. I've got to believe overseeing an urban chicken program is in addition to the Bylaw roles and responsibilities. I don't know how much time that's going to be taking them. Because even in the report that was provided by a couple of folks now, they talk about as long as the chickens are properly looked after, there's no odor, there's no this, there's no that, everything is wonderful. However, we have the same issue as long as dogs are looked after and kept on leashes, and as long as cats aren't let out, our bylaw officers wouldn't have anything to do as far as animals. But not everybody is responsible. And I would hate to see us go down this road after getting the feedback we originally got and adding more to our bylaw in terms of overseeing this, because I'm not convinced that everyone who's going to have urban chickens is going to be as diligent as what the presenters provided to us. Thank you.
And I agree with that. I haven't supported the urban chicken initiative from the beginning, and I won't support it moving forward. For the things that Councillor Nielsen said, also from other people from the community that I've spoken to as well, that would not like to have their neighbor with chickens, regardless of whether there isn't a smell or the noise. If I wanted to live in the country with farm animals, I would. I just wouldn't be the mayor of the city of Wetaskiwin, that's all. Anything further? So the motion to have administration bring back information on the urban chicken initiative. Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed? Defeated. I lost my agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that City Council directs administration to investigate the potential of closing the alley between the parking lot to the east of the Boys and Girls Club Wetaskiwin building to the library park and report back at the February 13th, 2022 regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Elliott.
If I may speak to that.
Please.
The property directly east of the Boys and Girls Club has been donated by the Denham family, and the idea is to put a park in there. The park would coordinate with the playground so that there would be programming between the library and the Boys and Girls Club, and there would be a fence around it as well. So in order to do that, to make it safe we would like to close the alley from the Boys and Girls Club to the playground so that everybody would be safe. And it would be very simple. The two businesses that are there would still have access to their buildings. It just that vehicles wouldn't be able to go through. The lane to the east of the library would still be open, as would be the two parking lots beside the Legion. They would have access as well. So the only thing that would happen would be it would be closed off for that portion of the alley to the playground, which is not very, very long. Thank you.
Councillor Aberley.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Elliott, I'm just confused what you're talking about. So I get there's the Legion and the two parking lots, and the library is right behind the Legion's parking lots. So you want to, it's from this way. If the Boys and Girls Club is here, it's just access in and out of the parking lots. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you came out from the playground, you would be able to go directly from the playground to that property that's being donated. So, and the idea is to have grass and trees and picnic tables and those kinds of things.
So it's the alley to the south of the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
That lane wouldn't go all the way through.
Behind what was previously the Salvation Army building?
Yeah, I kept on thinking east, so that's my bad.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So the property, yes, those two properties. And they would still have access to their buildings.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. Would, through the chair to, I think it'd be Kath or Paul, I'm sorry, would fire have any concern as far as closing down an alley?
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, administration had met when we got the notice of motion, and there are some challenges to our engineering standards which include fire access. So we anticipate this wouldn't take more than an hour or two to put an opinion paper together and bring it back to a subsequent council meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor Nielsen.
Through the chair to Councillor Airport and Councillor Elliott. So as we talk about, I'm assuming an expansion of a playground, it's not really a community playground because you'd access it only through either the Boys and Girls Club or the library. Joe Public can't just walk onto the park, or there's...
I can't answer that completely. The idea would be that it would be for the Boys and Girls Club and library programs at this point in time. I don't know what it would mean in the evenings, but the idea was to put a fence around it as well on the east side, just to protect the property. But I can't say that it would be, I don't know that. I'm sorry, I can't answer that one right now.
Thank you.
That would be up to the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors.
Thank you.
Any further? Motion is to investigate, excuse me, the potential of closing the alley between the parking lot to the east of the BGC Wetaskiwin building to the library park and report back to the February 13th, 2022 regular council meeting. We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried unanimously. Councillor Nielsen, do you have a notice of motion? Yep. You will work with administration on that? I was going to say if they have to, yeah. Anything further? Motion adjourned. Motion adjourned? Meeting adjourned. Motion to adjourn, not accepted. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.